Hi everyone, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Linda from Poseidon Equine, and joining me today is Nikita Stowers from Barney in New Zealand. And Poseidon Equine is so committed to meeting the needs of all our customers, so we're so thrilled to have Nikki join us as a consultant and sharing all her amazing experience around horse nutrition, but also making sure the information that we get is very relevant to our New Zealand customers and their horses. So today's webinar will be about looking at what are the needs and I guess the specific issues that are challenges for New Zealand horse owners and horses, and just asking some really simple questions that we think are really relevant. But before we get started, I'd just like to say welcome, Nikki, and just tell us a little bit about Barney and what your background is.
Thanks, Linda. It's great to be here today. I'm really excited about this new partnership with Poseidon as well, because it just means that we can meet our horse owners' needs a bit better, look after their horses' gut health. So yeah, hopefully we can cover some of that today. So I'm Nikita Stowers. I'm an equine nutritionist and based here in New Zealand. I consult all over New Zealand directly to horse owners, and we basically, my business partner and I, Dr. Petra Hazlitt, created Barney in 2016. We saw a bit of a need for some integrated veterinary and nutrition advice, and so that's basically how Barney was born. And we provide advice direct to horse owners around feeding and management, and specifically in areas like gut health. So yeah, really excited to talk to you about gut health today.
Great model. And I don't know why I called you Nikki. I don't know why I called you Nikki in the introduction. That was really strange. Anyway, Nikita.
I get Nikita, Nikki, Nick. So.
Sorry about that. No, I think your model is an amazing one, and why we're so excited to be working with you is because Poseidon's not just about manufacturing products, it's about the education, and there is no point as a horse owner just doing band-aids all the time and just adding supplements without looking at the diet and the management. So you know, we are so excited to be working with you, so thank you. So let's get started. So we'll just keep this really general today, and feel free to add the New Zealand element to it all the way through, because what I'm finding working with New Zealand clients, they are very aware from, you know, in terms of the impact of grasses and forage and different things, and they seem to be very motivated about learning about nutrition. I don't know enough around New Zealand grasses and challenges, so that's why you're here. So let's start off with a really simple one. Why do you think gut health is so important for horses?
It's at the core of everything that we do, but it's at the core of everything a horse does as well. And you would have heard the saying, I think, no hoof, no horse, thrown around quite a lot. I think we need a new one, no gut, no horse.
Absolutely.
Because the gut is just so important. If we don't get it right, the effects are just devastating. And it's not just the classic colic and even gastric ulcers and things like that. There's so much more to it, and the importance of keeping that gut healthy. So I think it's vitally important, really. And feeding and management is really fundamental to keeping our horse's gut right, and then the flow-on effects for that in terms of behaviour, immunity, health, coat, hoof, everything is just a flow-on from there. So it's really our duty, I think, as horse owners to keep our horse's gut healthy, because what we've done, you know, over time, domesticating horses, is we've changed their natural behaviours. And we need to do that because we want to ride our horses, we want to do these things with them, we want to sometimes keep them stabled and keep them in small paddocks and take them away from those natural behaviours that they could do in the wild to keep their gut healthy. So we kind of owe it to them, I think, to keep their gut healthy. And we do that pretty simply with a few things, you know, by meeting their fibre requirement, making sure we don't put the wrong feeds in. But I think where people get quite stuck, and it's really difficult out there, is there's so many feeds and supplements and wonder potions and things that we don't always get it right. And not only that, we do things like we travel our horses, we put them on floats, we put them in stressful situations. And so stress is really at the core of that as well. And I don't just mean kind of physical stress. I mean anything that's going to stress the horse's gut and basically stress the bugs that are in the horse's gut. So I think if we start to think about trying to look after that environment for our horses, then we can help to look after them.
Oh, look, I agree with everything you've said, and it's so correct. The gut is the foundation for everything, and if we know that the gut is linked to behavior and performance and immunity and health, and the health of the gut is dependent on the little community that lives inside there, all that microbiota, the bacteria and the yeast and the fungi, then I think as horse owners, we have to constantly say, am I feeding the right bacteria, the right, managing the right population, or am I feeding the bad? At everything we do, how we manage them and how we feed them. And I think what's really important too, when we're talking about gut health, it's not just the stomach. There's been such an over-reliance on, things like omeprazole, which have a role, but it's bigger than that. The stomach is small, and yet you've got the gastrointestinal tract that's so long. And if you get systemic inflammation, it affects everything. So
yeah, that's right. And that's so true what you say about the stomach. It's been a focus for quite a long time, and we, of course, in our practice with Vani, we deal a lot with gastric ulcers and then feeding and management prevention to stop reoccurrence. What we do see a lot is that we tend to treat horses and then they'll reoccur if we don't change their feeding and management. So long term, it's not good for horses to be on things like omeprazole, because that has its own effects as well and inhibits certain things. And for example, calcium absorption, there's some data out there to look at growing horses and its effect on bone health. So we don't want to be medicating horses all the time, but we do need to keep their gut healthy. The stomach is a really easy focus, because we can scope into there, we can see what's going on, and we can treat it pretty effectively and pretty easily. The rest of the gut is not so easy, so we have to rely on certain measures and looking at the diet and saying, okay, is this diet putting this horse at risk of poor gut health? And we can also do a few little things, for example, testing fecal pH to give us an indication of what kind of state that horse's gut is in. And we see a range of, for example, fecal pHs even. And some racehorses, we may see them in the low 5s, which is really acidic. And then some of our more pleasure horses, those that are on higher fibre diets, we see them a lot closer to neutral. So it is quite telling in terms of what we're feeding these horses, and then what effect that's having on the gut microbiome as well, and on the bugs in there.
And I think it's what we're feeding, and also how. And having been sitting on some amazing webinars lately, you're just constantly reminded about the importance of having that constant access to some sort of forage, because the stomach, the upper part of the stomach's not lined, the pH can drop very quickly when it's empty, because fibre will move through so quickly. And little things like having some lucerne hay before you ride your horse, because lucerne's got some extra special qualities around buffering and just some of those little management techniques. And I think, to be fair to horse owners, I've been a horse owner all my life, I didn't actually understand how important the whole gut was. So what's exciting about is sharing this information so people can actually have the chance to make the changes. If they don't know about it, how can they make those changes? So, these sessions are so valuable, and hopefully we can do lots more of these and share your knowledge. So
yeah, sure we can.
Yeah, excellent. I think we've talked about why gut health is important, and also how behavior and performance are linked to that. So let's talk about New Zealand. What do you think some of the specific challenges New Zealand horses and their owners face, which may be different to Australia? It may be the same, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think we are super lucky in New Zealand, as opposed to a lot of countries around the world, in that we can keep our horses at pasture pretty much all year round. But that does unfortunately come with its struggles and difficulties as well, because although we can keep our horses at pasture, and so they are getting that nice constant trickle fibre intake that we want them to be getting, that pasture is not always ideal for horses. We live in a country full of dairy farms as well, and unfortunately a lot of our horse properties are on old dairy farms, so a lot of the grasses that are present aren't necessarily the best ones for our horses. They're not the high fibre grasses that we would like to see. Often they're the ones that are higher in sugar and pretty gutsy, really. So although we are very lucky, sometimes we do need to be careful around our management, especially at certain times of year. So we will see some real issues in the springtime because of the spring flushes that we get. It's obviously not ideal for horses, for laminitic ponies and things, but we can also get some devastating effects on the hindgut as well, even on pasture-based systems, which seems ironic because, you know, we should be meeting their fibre intake, but we're not always quite getting it right, if you like. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we see is getting it right throughout the year. We tend to look at a bit of a seasonal approach here. So as the grasses change, then we obviously need to look at adjusting our horses' diets as well. So that's how we tend to work with clients, is pretty seasonally.
It's a great idea, because I think that often as horse owners we create this diet and that's it. Same diet for the next 15 years, and yet we have to take into consideration how much exercise they're getting, but also seasonal. I mean, that's something I hadn't really thought of. So absolutely, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's huge actually, because you think about a spring pasture and then compare that to a summer pasture, and you're going to get large differences in things like protein, large differences in sugar content, fibre content, water content. So we really do need to make those adjustments seasonally, I think. But in saying that, we are really lucky to have our pasture. We're lucky because we don't have to, you know, buy in so much feed, but we just need to know how to manage it and what support the gut might need at different times of the year as well. So that's probably one of the big challenges that we see. Another one teamed with that, which I think goes quite nicely, is that although we have a lot of these not horse-specific pastures, we also have a lot of off-the-track thoroughbreds. So and this is probably similar to your situation in Australia as well, but a lot of our sport horses are actually thoroughbreds. So, and they've often come from a bit of a gut compromise situation. They're fed large amounts of grain-based feeds usually. Often these grain-based feeds aren't processed as well, so leads to further impacts on the gut health. But then we take these horses off the track, they become sport horses for us as well. They've already got probably quite a compromised gut, so we're kind of starting on the back foot. And then we have them, you know, on these not ideal pastures. We probably don't get to the bottom of what was wrong with them to begin with. So we almost need to kind of reset these horses' gut to begin with, I think. So we've got a lot of work to do in that area as well.
Nikita, isn't it? The off-the-track thoroughbred. And I'm sitting here making some notes thinking maybe we should do our next webinar all about resetting the off-the-track thoroughbred, and invite yourself and Dr. Nerida Richards from Australia, and we have a big webinar about the off-the-track, because you're absolutely correct. They retire with so many gut challenges because all the risk factors for gut health, they tick. And so they then have this reputation of being hard doers. They're dangerous, they're anxious. And from experience working with a great diet and using our products, I cannot believe the transformation that you can get from off-the-track thoroughbred once you get that gut, or you rebalance that microbiota. So, you know, it's a huge area, and ideally, if we can reset them, we almost find a new role for these off-the-track thoroughbreds. It's a welfare issue as well. They'll be easier to rehome. People can enjoy them more. They're the most amazing animals. So,
and I think they can get a bit of a bad name too. You know, like you say, a lot of those dangerous behaviours, those anxious behaviours, they're more highly strung. Some of that is kind of, you know, it can be inherent in the breed, but it also, diet and management has such a huge role to play there. And as well as that, when these horses are in pain, they're not being naughty or just being dangerous for the sake of it. They're actually screaming out to us like, hey, I'm not happy, I'm in real pain here. And so it's always like a bit of a pet love of mine is working with owners that have off the track thoroughbreds and getting them right, getting their gut right, and the flow on effects are amazing.
That's why I love working with you, because I totally agree, and it's actually exciting. We're in pain. We don't want to perform. We're not happy people. So why would our horses be like that? So fantastic. Okay, well, I think, is there anything else you want to cover in terms of challenges, or they're the sort of the main two that you wanted to chat about today?
Yeah, I think in terms of challenges for New Zealand, it's probably those, and I think there is also a bit of an under-diagnosis, if you like, of certain gut issues. But we kind of covered that as well. Like we do know a lot about the stomach, but we don't know as much about the hindgut. It's a bit of a harder area. And so, yeah, some of the education that's coming out now around the gut microbiome, the importance of the bugs back there, I think is really critical to our feeding and management of our horses going forward. So yeah, I'm sure we've got lots more to chat about, but we'll have another time as well.
But we can do lots more of these, and again, I'll just reinforce, anybody watching this, if you want to learn more about gut health, go to our website, and I'll put the link up at the end, because we have so much information around gut health, and we're very proud of the fact that as a company we're putting gut health on the agenda and aligning ourselves with some of the most amazing researchers from around the world. As the research is emerging around gut health and microbiota, we're getting access to it and sharing it. And it's not just about the products, which we think are amazing, but it's about educating and creating change. So thank you so much for joining us today. And what we might do is also put the link to Varney at the end of this session, and then people can contact you if they want to get that amazing complete approach, which I think we need to do. You know, if diet is such a foundation, you have to get it right.
Yeah, and I think the benefits for owners and for their horses are just, you know, there's so many. So if we can just get that right, then our horses will look after us tenfold. So
absolutely. Thank you, Nikita. Thanks for joining us.
No worries. Nice to chat to you, Linda.
Thank you.